I'm going to give away a free t-shirt, bring you a Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight, review comics news, and reveal the books up off this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching a Comic Hero show. Now kick that intro! Welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. The summer of superheroes continues, and on this episode, I'm showing some love to the X-Man known as Storm. Now, Storm was created by Lin Wein and Dave Cockrum in 1975 and made her debut in John Size X-Men #1 of that year. Now, to tell the whole story about John Size X-Men #1, I would have to go back to when Marvel discontinued the X-Men franchise. After 7 years, they decided to discontinue it due to lack of sales. And so when Wein and Cockrum had decided to bring them back, they made a few ballsy moves. First off, they got rid of 3 of the original 5 X-Men, and I'm talking about Beast, Angel, and Iceman, and they replaced them with new members of the X-Men from different parts of the world. And Storm happened to be from Cairo, Egypt, by way of New York. And the reason I say that is because her parents immigrated from Cairo to New York right after they got married. And then a few years after Storm was born, they moved back to Egypt. And it was there where Storm's powers first manifested. Now, Storm's powers, you might ask, are weather manipulation, empathy with weather control, and flight. And this is a Storm Comic Hero tee. And if you would like your very own, you can find them on my website, IamTheComicHero.com, for $20. Now this is, now as I've said before, because this is June and it's Juneteenth month, every character this month that I'm going to cover will all be black superheroes. Now the whole significance with Storm is that she is the first black member of the X-Men, and that's very groundbreaking. I mean, there were no black members before she came along in 1975, and that's really saying something. And she's been riding high ever since then. I mean, at one point she was married to Black Panther. She was a member of the Fantastic Four, and now she's part of the Quiet Council on the island of Krakoa. All right, it's time to give away a free T-shirt. All right, on last week's episode, I asked, which DC character has an IQ that's higher than Albert Einstein? Well, the correct answer is Batman. Now, Batman's IQ is 192, whereas the late, great Albert Einstein had an IQ that was somewhere between 160 and 180. Well, the correct answer is Batman, and 11 people have answered correctly. And because they've answered correctly, the name's been entered in the drawing for a free tee. And that drawing takes place right now. So the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is Autumn Benson from Monroe, Louisiana. So congratulations, Autumn. You win yourself a free Comic Hero tee. All right, Now, on last week's episode, I covered Luke Cage. Now, Luke Cage is the first ever black superhero to debut in his own series. Which brings me to the question for next week's episode. Which DC character was the second black superhero to debut in his own series? Now here are the hints. The first hint is that this character was created by Tony Isabella and Trevor Von Eaton in 1977. The second hint is that the character Black Vulcan from the animated series Super Friends was believed to have been based on this superhero. And then the third and final hint, this is a dead giveaway. This superhero had his own series on the CW that lasted from January of 2018 to May of 2021 and was played by Cress Williams. Everyone who answers correctly will be in the drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. Alright, now, Katie and Frank Mayo from Spring Hill, Louisiana requested a Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight, and this one features the Dark Knight going up against the Armored Avenger. And they have one thing in common. And what is that, you might ask? Well, to paraphrase a line to the theme of an 80s sitcom, here they are, face to face, a couple of silver spoons. Representing DC, we have Batman, and representing Marvel, we have Iron Man. These two are going to duke it out in a segment I like to call
the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown.
Welcome to the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown. Today, it's Batman versus Iron Man. Batman is an expert detective, master martial artist, hand-to-hand combatant, master tactician, strategist, and field commander who possesses genius-level intellect, eidetic memory, and utilization of high-tech equipment and weapons. Iron Man is a proficient scientist and engineer who possesses genius-level intellect. His powered armor suit gives him superhuman strength, speed, durability, agility, reflexes, senses, supersonic flight, energy repulsor, missile projection, and regenerative life support. Who will win? To make this fight a little more fair, let's have Batman inside this Hellbat Armor. The Hellbat Armor is a special batsuit designed and built by Batman and forged by the Justice League to enable Batman to defend himself and others against Justice League superhuman threats that Batman would otherwise be incapable of fighting. This fight would be back and forth with Iron Man having the upper hand. Batman would then use his martial arts skills to gain advantage over Iron Man, but the latter would deliver an energy repulsor blast so concussive that Batman ends up in the ocean. Iron Man wins. But wait! Batman and the Hellbat Armor miraculously survive Iron Man's repulsor blast and walk out of the ocean towards Iron Man. The latter tries another blast, but his suit completely shuts down. The reason? Just as Iron Man delivered the previous blast, Batman contaminated Iron Man's armor with a firewall-penetrating virus. Batman then ends the fight by delivering a vicious back fist to Iron Man, causing the armor to shatter and knocking Tony Stark out cold. Batman wins, and that concludes this fight on the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown. Thank you, Katie and Frank Mayo, for that request. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll have another one for next week. If you want to make a request, go ahead and do so. Now, you know my rules. The first rule is there has to be at least one comic book or manga character involved in a fight. The second rule is that this comic book or manga character can go up against another comic book or manga character, a video game character, or a very serious-minded cartoon character. I'm talking about Optimus Prime, Voltron, Lion-O, He-Man, anyone like that. Alright, now it's time for Comically Speaking, so without further ado, let's talk comics! Alright, there are two things I'm going to talk about in this segment of Comically Speaking, and here's the first. Now, I recently got around to seeing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this movie came out a month and a half ago, and I'm not going to give away anything because I know there's some of y'all that are waiting for the movie to come out on Disney Plus or to come out on DVD or whatever. And I know that some of y'all are still a little gun-shy about going to theaters, but I'll go ahead and say this. The name of the movie shouldn't have been Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It should have been called Doctor Strange versus the Scarlet Witch. And then also, the Illuminati is in it. And there's a line in that movie that's probably going to set the tone for Marvel Studios moving forward. And I'm kind of excited about it. But as for the movie, not so much. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen did great as both Wanda and the Scarlet Witch, and then Benedict Cumberbatch is always a great performance. I mean, in just about any role that Cumberbatch has ever had, he's really done no wrong. I mean, even Khan in Star Trek Beyond and Down to a Store. But anyway, but if I had to give that a rate, I'd probably could say a 6 out of 10. This isn't exactly one of those movies that I would watch again, even if it came out on DVD. I mean, it's definitely not one that I think is bad. I mean, I think the worst Marvel movie that I've seen is Iron Man 3. And that's it. But y'all can go out and see it if you want, or wait till it comes out on DVD, but not me. Alright, now the second thing is that I finally read Justice League number 75. Now the cover of it pretty much says it all. It says Death of the Justice League. It all happens when members of the Justice League were teleported while they were all going out doing some stuff, and they ended up being teleported to the headquarters of the Justice League Incarnate. Now, the Justice League Incarnate is pretty much the Justice League multiverse, where members of this team are all throughout different parts of the DC multiverse, including the Barry Allen Flash. But it was during Justice League Incarnate miniseries that the Barry Allen Flash went missing. And it was all because of Pariah. Now, Pariah had somehow gotten control of just about every villain that members of the Justice League have ever fought. And it was not pretty. A lot of them died by brute force, and then Pariah conjured up this spell to make Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman age rapidly to the point where they turn to dust. And the only one that survived this whole onslaught was Black Adam. And Black Adam ended up crash landing right in front of the Hall of Justice, and it said the Justice League is dead, and that's how Justice League number 75 ended. And that sets the tone for this new miniseries that's actually going to be in the comic books I bought this week segment called Dark Crisis. And it's but here's my thing. Now, DC has already admitted that they killed off members of the Justice League as a way of observing the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman. I honestly don't agree with that. I mean, the death of Superman is one of those events that, in my opinion, should never have happened. But I still believe that there's a lot more to this than DC is letting on. And as soon as I find out, I'll let y'all know. But but I love the way it was written. I love the artwork by Rafa Sandoval. I didn't like that it happened, but the writing was great, the artwork was great. And, well, yeah. Alright, that's it for Comically Speaking. Let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
Alright, first up is The Amazing Spider-Man number 3. Batman number 124. Dark Crisis number 1. Now let me show you. This is a double cover. How about that? And the cover was done by Daniel Sampier. Alright, next up is Flashpoint Beyond number 2. Jane Foster, The Mighty Thor number 1. Justice League Road to Dark Crisis number 1. Or it's a one-shot, rather. Legion of X number 2. Marauders number 3. Nubia, Queen of the Amazons number 1. Savage Avengers number 2. Static Season 1 number 5. Static Season 1 number 6. Thor number 26. And finally, Venom number 8. Alright, that's 14, which brings the total number of comics that I've bought since December of 1997 to 11,404. Alright, well, I hope y'all enjoyed this week's episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode of the show. Which DC character was the second black superhero to debut in their own series? Now, here are the hints again. The first hint is that this character was created by Tony Isabella and Trevor Von Eaton in 1977. The second hint, the character Black Vulcan from the Super Friends TV show is loosely based on this superhero. And then the third and final hint, this superhero had their own series on the CW that ran from 2018 to 2021 with Chris Williams playing the lead role. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in the drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Autumn Benson from Monroe, Louisiana, won a free tee on this episode. Alright, the Summer of Superheroes rolls on. On next week's episode, episode 407, I'm going to show some love to the King of Wakanda, the first black superhero in comics, the Black Panther. Then on episode 408, I'm going to show some love to the Sentinel of Liberty, the Star-Spangled Man with a Plan, Captain America. Then on episode 409, I'm going to show some love to the strongest there is, that Jade Giant, Old Green Jeans, the Incredible Hulk. Now this year marks the Incredible Hulk's 60th anniversary. And then speaking of another character's 60th anniversary, on episode 410, I'm going to show some love to the God of Thunder, the now King of Asgard, Thor. And really loving the Summer of Superheroes. I look forward to doing this every summer, and I'm going to do it every summer as long as I'm doing the show. And I'm going to do this show for a very long time. Now, if you're watching this for the very first time on YouTube, welcome. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and as soon as you're done, hit subscribe. Now, if you have any suggestions you want to make, if you want to make any requests for the Throwdown Showdown, if you want to even include some topics for the Comically Speaking segment, if you want to ask some questions, if you have any questions you want me to ask and answer in any question segment, which by the way I didn't do in this episode on purpose, but I will do it next week. And then also if you want to make any suggestions, anything you think that'll make the show better, please let me know. Now, if it's anything negative or ugly, then keep it to yourself. You know, be kind. See, that's the one thing that this world lacks. It lacks kindness. There's so much ugliness. There's so many rude and smart remarks. That's not the way to live. That's not the way to do it. Be kind. Kindness costs you nothing. So do it. Be kind. Alright, I'm Victor Nunley on the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 407. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero!